good morning, and happy Boxing Day. Yes, it's one day after Christmas. It shows you how quiet our Christmas has been in that on Boxing Day I'm in my shop and doing some stuff and making videos. So let's just see our last Clairtone bit. Most everything was done, and I will show the operation if I can get this camera around and do that instead. Okay, there's the beast. Oh, I'm running out of cord. Here we go. Pardon me if I make everybody dizzy. All right, this is the Clairtone chassis. Everything has been done that can be done with it, with two exceptions. One, the filter can, which is on the top side, I have not replaced. And what I have thought of doing was restuffing it. I'm not going to do that right now. It seems to be working fine. I've replaced the voltage doubler capacitors, the coupling capacitors. Oh, there's something else, pardon me. These two resistors are out of spec. All right, they run the, what do they run? The inverter, I think. Let me just see where we are. No, they run 270K. They run the last gain stage. If I can show that. There. All right, 270K. Now, I don't understand their thinking in that they have a 1 watt resistor on that gain stage, and yet the resistor that feeds 4 of these tubes, the right and left channel voltage amplifiers, is a half watt at 47K. So maybe I'll just replace them. I've ordered 270K 1 watts, but I think half watt is going to do fine. They must have just had these in stock. Anyhow, the other thing I haven't done, so there's two distinct things. I haven't done an alignment. Now, I replaced the balancing capacitor there, the 5 microfarad, and it sounds fine, but actually I am super pleased and impressed with the sound of it. Now, I'll turn the volume up. Getting this over the internet is not going to indicate how high the quality is on it. So it sounds fantastic. And furthermore, I derated this FM front end as being urban only. However, with my outdoor antenna, I am getting an extremely strong signal from our favorite classical radio station quite a distance away. So I have to change my opinion on how the sensitivity of this works. The only tubes I've replaced so far are the inverter tubes, and I've used Russian surplus. I think they're 6P6, 6P1, and they are like a 12AX7. However, they're more like a 6AX7. And if I can show, I don't know whether that really shows very well. There's a 12AX7. Now, what they have is 2 filaments, because there are 2 individual triodes in there. And the one side of one filament is on pin 4. The other side of that same filament and the start of the next filament is on pin 5. And no, I'm sorry. The outside of that second filament is on pin 5. Now the center tap between the two of them go to pin 9. Now that means that if you want to run it in a 12-volt circuit, you use pin 4 and pin 5 and leave pin 9 open. That means you'll run 12 volts at 150 milliamps on there. Now, in a 6-volt system, which is what these are, because every other tube is 6.3, they tie pin 4 and pin 5 together and feed that to the filament and then ground pin 9, which puts them in parallel, and they're running at 6.3 at 300 milliamps. Now, the Russian one has both of these in parallel from pin 4 to pin 5. They cannot be used in a 12-volt circuit, and that means they're running at 6.3 volts at 300 milliamps. Now, pin 9 is an interesting thing. They have put a shield between the two sections and hooked that up to pin 9. So if you rewire the socket slightly, you can use those Russian tubes, and they happen to be a lot less expensive than North American or 12AX7, wherever they come from anyhow, a lot less expensive. And I bought, probably a half a dozen or maybe 10 of them quite a while ago, and they all work very well if you use them in this circuit. So I have substituted them. There it is, 6N2. Sorry, I wrote it in there. They're now 6N2 there and 6N2 there. That saves me using 12AX7s, which are a lot more expensive, as I've said. These tubes back here in the gain stage, they are the original ones, and they're more than adequate. What is really weak, I mean, all the rest of the tubes are original, and the front end of the FM up here, that tube, ECC85 or 6AQ8, was testing pretty good, and it looked like it was the original. So it works, and I think I've got a spare, but I'm not going to use it. However, both IF tubes are very weak, and they're 6BA6s, and I have a boatload of 12AU6s, but of course I can't use them in this situation. So I've ordered a bunch, probably 10 of them, in expectation. So that one, and maybe in the AM section it's bad too. I haven't bothered with the AM section at all because we do not receive any broadcast band signals in this area anymore. All right, so that is done. Let me put this up, and we are just peeking at this. Now, this is the preamp. This is another reason why this Clairtone is high-end. The 86, Gerard 86, Type A, I'm jumping my models here, they had a magnetic cartridge in it, a Shure Brothers magnetic cartridge. And of course, you need a preamp. So they have this wonderful little preamp. Oh, the bottom's still on it, I can't show. With two 12AX7s. Now, the problem with that is I don't know whether I've got the schematic out. But one of the things is these should be shielded tube sockets because it's extremely high gain and it's prone to hum pickup. So at the very least, no, not at the very least, I am going to replace these with the STI-TITE tube sockets with shields attached. So, and the other thing I'm going to do is use those 6N2 Russian tubes in there, and I'll rewire it. Also, I guess I really need to get the schematic out. The design of it, where are we? I guess that's it there. There's very little, yeah, that's it. Okay. There's the circuitry of this preamp back here. Okay. Now, There's nothing wrong with it except the equalization is pathetic. It's very poor. It relies on one resistor and one capacitor to give you a semblance of the RIAA equalization curve. And I'm not even going to bother trying to figure out how well it works. It's gone. So if I have to replace the tube sockets, then everything associated with this is going. And what I think I will do is open up my RCA tube manual, and there's a schematic for a passive RIAA preamp using 12AX7s, and I will rebuild it with that. And I will use this preamp with this unit if I put it back in the cabinet. And at this point, it's a 50-50 chance of it being put in the cabinet and trying to sell it. If I change my mind, then this won't be going back in it. I will put this chassis in construct a box, making it look as pretty as I can, and sell this unit as a standalone tube stereo amplifier receiver. And anybody that acquires that and uses it with moderately efficient speakers and turntable of their choice, whatever, will get great performance. The reason why, if it goes in the box, I won't be using this preamp is that there's little, if no room on the chassis to mount this. So if somebody did want a preamp to run with a modern turntable, then I could always incorporate a small PC board in a little metal box mounted somewhere on the chassis. I've done that before. There's more room for something like that than there is for this. Pardon me. And I'll save this for another project. The other thing I wanted to show, which is something I will always do, is that I drilled a hole and I mounted a fuse holder. I could have just done it with a wired-in fuse in the middle, but I have these, and even though this is a steel chassis and it was tough going to drill the hole in it, I put this in. I don't know how manufacturers get away or did get away with no fusing. If something happens that's dramatic, like a shorted filter capacitor or power rectifier, or a tube that's like the output tubes, it'll smoke up the house, if not start a fire, and it will toast this, the power transformer. And that's stupid. You know, how much does it cost them to put a fuse in and a fuse holder? They could mount a fuse on a surface mount fuse holder inside for probably pennies, and yet they never did. And I have so many units. So anything I repair for myself, restore for myself, or for sale, I will always put a fuse in. It's the safe thing to do. The other thing, which I'm not sure I mentioned before, I took out the capacitor, which was a disc capacitor, from one side of the line to ground, and I put in a safety cap from one side of the line to ground. The next thing I will do is, and I don't have any in stock, is the cord is in absolutely great shape, but I will cut the plug out because it's non-polarized. If I can get that. It's just the standard. Okay, I'll cut it off there, and I'll put a polarized plug on it, and I will make sure that the part that goes to neutral is the one that's connected to this. So always when your hot line comes in, the very first thing it must do, is go through the fuse. So that if anything with the power switch or the wiring to the power switch or the safety capacitor or anything else, period, it will open that fuse if there's a problem. And that is the safe way to do it. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else. I can't show have you listened to much of anything, you have to take my word that the sound is spectacular. So I have to decide whether I'm going to put it back in the cabinet. I would really love to. The cabinet is like a rectangular box, but it is really nice material. And with the speakers that are in it, it would sound very good. I mean, the speakers that I'm using now are my bench speakers, and they're pretty good. They're 10-inch or 12-inch woofers in a ported box. And with a reasonable amplifier, they sound excellent. And this sounds excellent. I am so pleased with this. It's the best sounding Clairtone that I've come across. So I guess that's it for this morning. Nothing else to cover. I don't think there's a reason to come back unless I show the unit, the chassis back in the cabinet. If I do that, then I need to take the cabinet, which is heavy as old heck, down to my woodworking shop and strip it and refinish it. The top is not in good shape, and it's getting beaten up because it's in the garage and all sorts of things are being piled on top of it, which is pretty well par for the course. So that's it. I think I've maybe wished everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and celebrations for whatever your persuasion is. But now I can say, well, in the course of a few days, we'll be on the cusp of a new year. Whoopee! And I will wish everybody a very happy and, most importantly, a healthy new year. So I guess that's it for now. I shall put the camera down and quit jiggling it and say, have a good day and thank you very much for watching. And if you know anybody else that would like to enjoy my videos, please recommend them. Hit a like button and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really like to have more viewership if I could. All right, so take care. Good morning. Back again on this Clairtone stereo system. This could be the last installment before the cabinet gets its restoration, refinishing come the spring. So what I've got that you can see right now is the Gerard Type A changer that's been done up nicely. The idler has been refinished. Is that the term? I don't know. It sat for about 6 months in brake fluid and it's restored it. I cannot believe how well it works. This is a difficult changer. The traction needed in order to put this mechanism through the change cycle needs to be right up there, and it is good. Now, right here to the left is the preamp that I have rebuilt completely. The only thing that was left after I stripped it out was the actual chassis itself and the cables. Everything else went. The tube sockets went and all the associated parts, and I can show you what came out of it. That's all the parts that were there. So I wasn't prepared to leave that circuit design in place. And so it got completely rebuilt. Now I'm going to I'll run the unit and show you a few seconds of how good it sounds. I'm absolutely amazed at this. I knew this was high-end for Clairtone, and the sound is spectacular. The power is there. It's probably 15 to 17 watts per channel, and with a reasonably efficient speaker system, it will bring the house down. It's amazing. The other thing that surprised me was the FM. I had said that this FM front end was just middle of the road, meant for urban. However, our favorite radio station is quite a distance away, and while I do have a Yagi pointer generally in that direction, not every chassis I have up on the bench picks it up well. This one does extremely well. It's very strong and clean. So I have to retract my original opinion of this front end. The only thing left to do, maybe I can pivot that a bit. The switches are still somewhat intermittent. I've cleaned them and cleaned them and cleaned them, and they still need more cleaning. I can't really take them apart. They'll be destroyed if I try and get in there, so I can clean the contacts mechanically. The controls are still a bit scratchy, but a little more working in with that, that's fine. The two 6BA6s, there are on the weak side, and I've ordered a lot of them, like maybe 8 or 10 of them, I can't remember, supporting our Ukraine brothers and sisters. I've ordered these surplus ones from the Ukraine. The AM 6BA6 is missing because it's the tube that was in there was tested reasonably well, so it's now residing in the FM IF strip. Let me swing that down again. The preamp, I've used these Russian 6N2P 12AX7, sort of. They are dead quiet. They're very good, and the fidelity of them is impressive. So that's the last of the ones I have. There's 2 of them here and 2 of them used in the inverter stage in there, and I think I had ordered 6 originally, and they're now depleted. I have subsequently ordered locally some 12AX7s, which I can use, but I am tempted to see if I can source these 6N2P tubes again. When you rewire the tube socket, which is a minimum effort, they work extremely well in every situation I put them in. So without further ado, I'll run a little test on this. It's not going to impress you through the microphone pickup that I have and through the internet. If you were here, you would just be as blown away with this performance as I am. My next problem will be whether I put this chassis back in the cabinet with this preamp and its original changer and use the speakers, which have not been tested yet because they're buried underneath all sorts of stuff out in the cabinet, in the garage, and it's very cold out there. So they won't be tested until later on, come springtime when it's warm. But the problem is, if I go through all this effort to refinish and restore the cabinet, which is a very nice sort of sleek, square type cabinet, I can't keep this. This is much too much. I've already got 2 console stereos, and that's more than I can handle even with that. So I can't have a third one. So I'd have to sell it. And trying to sell a console these days, I think most people don't have the room or aren't interested in them, no matter how well they perform. And so therefore, what I might do is make a box for this so that it could be a standalone unit. So that decision has yet to happen, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. If I make a box for it, but somebody wants it in the console, I could still take it out of the box and put it in the console and refinish the console. So I don't know. So I'll give you about 4 seconds of music as played on this, and then I will show you. See, this is look at how that doesn't even want to slow down. Now it's fairly loud here, so we'll just count out 4 seconds. This is Bert Kempfert and his orchestra, and the album is Blue Midnight. Well used, well abused, and I've loved it for the 60 odd years I've had it. All right, I think that's all I can do of that. Okay, and as you can see, it just goes through that cycle nicely. I wished I could play more. There's a couple of songs on here that would sound pretty good on there. All right, another thing is, I had originally intended to use this. Let me bring this down. Probably the easiest way. This is the RCA tube manual. Where are we here? Magnetic phono preamp using 7025, which is really the low noise version of a 12AX7. I had wanted to use it, but its part is complicated, and there's a lot more parts. So I found this one on the internet, which is quite a bit fewer parts than the original, and if I wasn't happy with it, then I would have taken out the parts and gone with the RCA one. I don't know where this came from, whose design it is. I just picked it up off the internet, and I want to thank whoever it is that designed it. It's feedback instead of the RCA method. And I know feedback should have two different poles in there for both bass and treble. This just has the one, and yet it sounds magnificent that way. Dead quiet with my standard resistors and those 6 and 2P tubes. Okay, so that's the circuit that I use. Now I've got the unit turned off, and I can take this upside down and show you what I've done. So as I said, the only thing that was left after I finished stripping it out was the actual chassis, the input connectors, the output wires, and the terminal strips. Everything else went. So there's tube sockets, the ceramic or steatite tube sockets with tube shields, and all new components as per that schematic in there. And it went fairly straightforward. I allowed it to use the chassis ground in 2 or 3 places. I'm not happy with doing that generally, especially in high-gain front-end circuits. However, it's no hum, zero, even without the bottom attached, and it's quiet as a church mouse. And so that is, anybody wants to build a tube RIAA magnetic phono preamp, I can recommend this. You can see that the parts count is kind of on the low side, and yet the performance is good. The one thing I did add was, even though the input lead for the B+, that red lead, goes to an upgraded filter capacitor there, because the voltage coming in is higher than the recommended voltage here, I could play with this additional filtering. So I put 2, 1 per channel, dropping resistors, 390 ohms, from that over to the actual circuit, and a 10 microfarad capacitor to ground, to further isolate the channels and minimize the hum. The resistors, I have lots of those in stock, and those capacitors, I have lots of those in stock, so it was a no-brainer to do that. Whether it was actually necessary or not, I don't know. I didn't take measurements one way or the other, and I don't particularly care. It works well, so I'm happy. And so that's that. So as I said at the beginning, I think that's really neat looking. So I managed to put my labels on there so that if there's anybody else that intends to service it, they will understand the substitutions I've made. And so I guess that's it. Oh, I do have one more thing I have to add here, and that is when I rewired the Gerard changer, I put in a separate ground lead. And so there was no provision anywhere on the chassis for that. So I will just drill a hole in the corner and mount this, and the turntable will be grounded to the chassis, which will fine. Right now, as you can see, I've got a ground lead just clipped on there to provide that ground, and that works. Okay, so I guess that's it, and I'll say thank you very much for watching. If you happen to know anybody that is interested in tube units, any kind of stereo equipment, and might enjoy this, please share and recommend. I would love to have more viewers than I actually do. So, at any rate, have a good rest of the day, and thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.